All right. What's going on, gang? Hey, we're back live here. We got the crew. We got Jeff's in the car. So for the first time in a while, you guys get a better view, underneath there of the mustache, and you can see how far back it goes. It's really impressive. Um,
See that?
Lewis is in there doing it. What are you doing? Filling out your logs?
Yeah, yep. We're trailers in the dock getting loaded, and I'm waiting for it to get done so I can pick it up, and take it home, and go see my son who just turned 4 today.
Paper logs, by the
Nice.
way.
Happy birthday to him.
Thank you.
Yes. And you're turning 40 soon, aren't you, Lewis?
Yeah. Next Friday, next week, big 4-0.
Wow.
We're going down to the truck show down in Louisville. Do a little celebrating.
Oh, so excited! I haven't been to Mats yet, so I'm really excited to go. I might see my next truck that I want.
You should let's post you up at a Ford. Let's run it instead of driving now. We'll run an expedite.
We could.
I know Subaru or XPO. I don't let them running that way. I guarantee it.
Yeah, trust me, we could. I just don't want to. I want to go and have fun this time. Like I don't want to go down and be working. I want to enjoy it.
Hey, and of course we got Steve Cox, man, president of Steam Logistics. Wanted to bring him on. We've talked with some other companies before. It gets me excited. I was part of a growing company for a long time. Always love that. And it's really cool to see how people do it differently, and how much social media really has, changed in just the years that I've not been around that long. But it's crazy how much the influence is. Steve's involvement on it. You'd think he was an 18-year-old kid running around out there with the camera. But that excitement, I think, that you see coming from a president goes a long way and trickles down. So, Steve, I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit. Kind of give us a little background on how long you've been in the industry, what you've been doing, and what all you got going at Steam.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to come on. And I was telling the guys earlier that I started at C.H. Robinson in 1994, and I put in about 8 or 9 years there, and that's a heck of a training ground for brokerage, especially at that time. They were about $1 billion when I started. I think there were 22 billion last year, and they've got a great success story, and a lot of companies can be traced back to C.H. Robinson, frankly, and I went from there to Super Value and Target and their transportation departments, and then ended up at Access America Transport, and grew an office up in Minneapolis. And that was a pretty neat experience to go from 2 people in an office to, when we sold to Coyote in 2014, we had 150 in my office. And so that was a neat thing to be a part of. I'll probably never be more proud of anything in my life than starting in a room with 2 people and making it to 150 people. And we were doing like 220 million in sales, and we sold. And it was a neat thing to be a part of. And fortunate enough, when we sold to Coyote, Steam Logistics was just starting out as the international division of Access America, and I kind of jumped over that because I wasn't a guy that was going to be able to work for Coyote. I mean, they were buying us. It was their company. I had a lot of freedom in Minneapolis. The corporate was 1,100 miles away, Chattanooga, and I didn't have to worry about anyone standing over my shoulder. And I knew that would change with Coyote coming in, which Coyote was great. And it was a good cultural fit for our people, but I knew it just wasn't going to be right for me. So I jumped over to Steam in 2014 and just started selling again. It's pretty neat to go from when you start out with 2 people, you're selling and you're banging out calls and you're booking freight, and then your job changes over time, and eventually you hit that 150 people, and your job's very different. And then going back to just hammering and selling again was really neat. That was 14, and then our journey through to now was a lot of years of failure, frankly. Like we were failing. I feel like I was failing those first 4 or 5 years, just trying to get things going. I wasn't an international person. I didn't know international. I didn't feel like I could move the needle on that side. And it was just a lot of failing. And, we started our drayage brokerage in 2018, and that took off. And then when our non-compete came up, we had a 7-year non-compete with Coyote after we sold the business. So in April of 21, that came off. And so we started domestic again. Mm-hmm. And our growth from there has been pretty tremendous. We did 33 million in 2019. Last year we did 767 million in sales. So, that's some hyper growth in 4 years. And it was a lot to manage, but that's where we're at today. It's been a journey.
So
Hey, I've got
a
a questions too.
people about this. And again, I started at Circle when there's 10 of us in a room, and we were doing 40 million a year. By the time I left, we were doing 620, whatever it was. But it was, there's different ways of scaling, right? And I think there's different ways. I think people kind of get smart about it or whatever it is. But I was talking to somebody the other day, and they're like, Steve, when they grew so fast, and I said, the whole push on the, no non-competes and whatnot. How much of that do you say, hey, this guy's got a book of business, okay? He could bring it in and this is what can happen, right? Is the cost of a lawyer or whatever it could possibly be, plus your experience and other people's experience, then maybe relationships with that previous company, to not go after it, make a big difference, because there's a lot of companies that shy away from that to where they won't even touch it.
Yeah.
And you guys being risky, having kind of the balls, I would have to say, to do those types of things. Did that kind of spur the hyper growth as well? I mean, to get talent on board with books of business?
Yeah, no, because there's a big difference between non-competes and non-solicits, right? I mean, we don't honor non-competes, we do honor non-solicits. So if somebody says they're going to bring a book of business and they have a non-solicit, we tell them, that we're just not interested.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay.
And so, yeah, it's just the non-compete. So if they have a non-compete, come work for us. We've said it 100 times. I bet I have currently over 100 people violating their non-competes today in our operation. I bet I counted one day, it was well over 100. And no one's suing us, because we said, if you actually sue us, we're going to put it on LinkedIn. And I don't think it's just not a very popular thing. People see it as big companies bullying 23-year-olds who want to find a better position and better themselves. And nobody wants to be seen in that light. So when you drag them out into the light, it's something that they're not interested in. And no one has sued us to date. And it's been 2 years of hiring whoever we want with a non-compete, frankly. But if somebody comes to us and there's a non-solicit violation and it's valid, we look into it and we fix it, because we don't want, we have a non-solicit, and so does everyone else, frankly. Anyone that comes on and says they don't have a non-solicit, they don't have anything to protect. There are a few companies out there that don't have non-solicits. It's very, very few in this industry. And if they don't, they're either naive or they just don't have anything to protect. It's easy for a one-man show. They don't have a non-solicit. Yeah, great. You don't have one because you have two people in your office. You really don't have anything to protect. But industry-wide, people have non-solicits. But the non-compete thing, it's crazy. These young people come into a new business. They're 22 years old. They get the employee handbook. They're told to sign it that day. They can't take it home. And even if they could take it home, they don't know a lawyer or can pay for a lawyer to look it over and make sure they're not signing anything funky. And nor would they even understand to do that. But there's a non-compete in there for many of them. They don't even know what they signed. 2 years later, they're busting their ass and they're saying, hey, I've got this better opportunity somewhere else. They can't go take that. And it hurts our industry. They have to sit out for a certain amount of time. High performers sit out, and guess what? They don't come back to our industry. I catch crap on LinkedIn at times about the non-compete, but for us, it doesn't benefit us. Like,
what do you mean? Who could possibly give you crap about? Like, what do you mean?
Well, people get on and talk about non-solicits, which
they don't understand the difference.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with that, and maybe they say that we're not as genuine in our we are very genuine when it comes to trying to give young people a better opportunity. Like, we don't have one, and if they go work somewhere else, that's up to them. And if we don't have a good enough culture here and a good enough pay plan to keep them here, that's on us, and that should be on every company out there. And so in the end, it would probably behoove us to have one, because the big companies threaten their people and they end up staying for longer periods of time, or when they leave, they're afraid to get a job somewhere else, or they try to sneak around. Like, if you leave here, you go get another job, best of luck. And so I feel good about, if they do ban these non-competes in Congress, which is supposed to go through Congress here pretty quick, we're in a really good position because we don't have them.
I don't think there's anything wrong for standing up for something that so many people already believe is not right. Because, you look at it from the standpoint of, even I'm still one of Circle's biggest proponent. There's people that leave that you leave CH Robinson, you leave, like, it doesn't mean that you're gonna, as long as that company deals with things correctly, and sends people off the right way, then there isn't really an issue. It's the people that don't do that, and have maybe a different type of mindset, or maybe even an undermining idea what they're doing, that they get involved in that. And the difference is between the non-solicit and non-compete is huge. But there's nobody, and like you said, nobody, I remember after I met Cassandra, she's like, you ever sit down, just tell them, Cassandra Gaines, and that you want her to review this, before you sign anything or whatever. And then that started getting publicized on LinkedIn as well. Right. And so all this stuff that you guys pushed out, that these people have pushed out, these discussions we have, I always tell people that, like, you can disagree on stuff all you want, but at the end of the day, people are so siloed in what they know and what they've been through. It's like, until you get to a company and you see from the top down and all these different strategies and things, you'll never understand that, having these discussions really just brings it to light and allows people to operate, still in the right way, whether or not people think it is or not, it doesn't matter. Right. And I think that's the biggest thing. So,
we just
I'm gonna
market. Go ahead and they should be able to move around for a better opportunity, better pay, an advancement that they don't get that opportunity. Like, I don't think that's right, and then that's in any industry, including ours. So
that's look at Lewis. Lewis was in my fleet. I was judged on my driver retention. I had to grow drivers, and he said he wanted to go, and I said, probably a good idea. Help to get his own MC number, right? Because it's like, he wanted to go. He was going to go either way. Dude was killing it. There's no way he was going to stick with some of the freight we had going. So it was like, hey, roll with it, man. Like, what do I have to? It's one person. Go succeed, man.
Yeah. What?
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to champion what you're doing over there, Steve, because it definitely sounds like what you're doing is for the people. And a lot of people in this industry forget that people are people. Humans are humans. People need work. Take care of people. Be kind to people. And it's evident. It's why you're wildly successful. You said something that really stood out to me a little bit ago. You said for 4 or 5 years you failed. Is it safe to say that, like, obviously some point in your career that failing forward just became your norm?
Yeah, I think you're probably onto something there. And it's weird because we grew up pretty poor. We were on welfare all the way through high school. So we didn't have anything growing up, and we had a roof over our head, and, I wasn't getting shot at or anything, but we didn't have anything. And so I think I was really fortunate to grow up that way, because when I started at CH and logistics, you got to bust your rear. And even after we sold Access America, like, I didn't frankly really have to work, but that was a challenge. Like, I needed to get up every day and go to work. And it was like, after a while, I was like, why am I still doing this? But I was like, we got to make this work. We're going to make this, we're going to win somehow. We're going to succeed. And it just took a lot of years of every day dragging it into work and just keeping the faith and just never giving up. But we probably should have given up a few times. There was some times when I thought there's no path to profitability here. We're just going to kind of limp along with 20 people. And, that was some tough times. You're right. It's, you can't just, some of my favorite books are A Shoe Dog with Phil Knight and the guy from Netflix, like, just hearing people's stories of guys that should have given up like that. Phil Knight should have given up 100 times over. Like, he was, he was an idiot to keep going. Like, what a moron. Like, like, this guy's a moron. He's crazy. Why does he keep trying? And now you're wearing Nikes because of it. Like, but reading that book, like, seeing how many times that dude should have given up and he never did. That was kind of some of my motivation. Like, I've got to make this work somehow. I didn't make it work, but I have to be a part of getting this to work. You know what I mean?
It's that stubbornness that's built, that stubbornness that's built in you, right, Steve? And I grew up the same way. I remember at one point, driving in one of 3 or 4 people in an office of 200 with an office in there. And I'm a kid from Auburn, Indiana. My dad was a teacher. I was a secretary. All my buddies worked at the steel mill, and we were failing. I mean, I was put through. I didn't have a lot of guys. I mean, we I reported the owners, they were busy. And, you know, I fucked a lot of stuff up, you know, and I had a lot of hard conversations, but it was like that stubbornness of like knowing, you know, my buddies, you know, bitching about, you know, having to be up, you know, at 3 a.m. to be there by 4, you know, to load steel beams the whole time, and tell me how lucky I am because, you know, my back won't go out by the time I'm 45. And so, you know, things that like that mindset is different. That stubbornness, it can get you in trouble every once in a while, but it gets you through a lot too. And I think when you find people like that, you know, that and they come together, like you said, being a part of something's the biggest thing too. You don't give up.
I've heard it called as I've heard it, the quote, I'm sure you guys may have heard it. I've heard it called the crazies. And that is, those who think they're crazy enough to change the world are the ones that usually do. Mm-hmm. It's that mentality of the grind and just wanting to just see something through, like no matter how hard it is. I know when we started 4 years ago, like TJ said, I as well broke everything, literally broke everything you could break in this industry, from motor to truck to relationships to my home. And you start to reevaluate like why, right? Why do we need to push and grow? And I think, you know, for a lot of us, we just have this innate desire to just not stop and be relentless about the grind. And, you know, it's evident you guys are grinding at Steam, man. You know, I'm a huge cheerleader, man. I love what you guys are doing. You know, like I said earlier, if they're talking about you, you're doing something. If they're not talking about you, you're not doing something. So
yeah, Jeff, when you built yourself, I mean, we know a little bit about your story, your background or whatever, but you know, you talk a lot, you're a very confident person, you know, about your successes and whatnot, but you know, how did you get kicked down? I mean, as you got to where you're at now, I mean, I have a conversation with you and we have to cut it off because it's like, you know, we get to an hour and we're already out of time, but you know, same type of thing. I mean, you went kind of the solo route after being part of growing a big company, but
you're on mute.
You're on mute, by the way. You're on mute, Jeff. Oh wait, I can unmute him.
There you go. Yeah. You know, one of the biggest things that I learned was definitely from failure. You know, you can't move forward and you can't be successful unless you learn from your mistakes. And I learned from the hard way. You know, my career started out loading trucks, driving forklifts, you know, loading shelves, doing all that stuff. And I just wanted to learn. And I learned everything from the inside out. I mean, I am not a sales guy. I am the first one to say that. You know, went from the bottom up to the top and, you know, procured like, you know, over $100 million worth of business for Panasonic as the procurement manager and all their divisions. You know, worked for a Ford Motor Company and started up their first 4PL operation. You know, all those kind of things, and then worked for Schneider National and was the Northeast Regional Operations Manager for Schneider Intermodal. And I had from Baltimore to Youngstown, Montreal to Halifax, 21 ramps. You know, a lot of freaking work, but I had to bust my chops. And I made a lot of mistakes, had a lot of failures around that. I mean, I'm still not successful because successful is a plateau that when you think you're on top of the mountain, there's so much more to learn than just settling down and accepting it for what it is. If you don't have your finger on the pulse in logistics every single day, you're losing big time. Mm-hmm. Because the industry right now, especially now in the market, is so volatile. Nobody really knows where it's going to go. It's not like last year or the year before, and a lot of people, you know, fall back on, hey, look what happened in 2019. It's a whole different animal. You know, I mean, when you looked at the shifts in the ports where Long Beach and, you know, Los Angeles used to be the big hitter, everything went to the Gulf, to Houston, to Savannah, you know, all the way up the East Coast. And now you got the number one port, believe it or not, which is New Jersey, New York. Things are shifting. You have to be on top of that. So, you know, I jumped ship and I went on the dark side, sales, you know, and I started doing things a little bit different because I used to get called every single day, TJ, by about 35 brokers that didn't know what the hell they were doing. They were unethical. They said, oh, we got the capacity. We have the best rates. Well, yeah, and the next guy that calls me is going to have the best rates. And it just keeps on going. It's all pray and spray kind of deal. You know, my side and how I've grown my business is just working like contacts. You know, a spider has many different legs, and there's so many different verticals with those legs upstream. You know, you got your vendors, you got your manufacturers, you got everything. And if you're killing it at one customer, why not exploit that and use them as a reference and get a good recommendation and tell their vendors, hey, I'm using, you know, Railgistics or RGTX Logistics Solutions. That's how it does it. You know, I'm trying to streamline things, work a little smarter, not harder, and still increase revenue. And right now, you know, my revenue is up, and I looked at it this morning, plus 334.79% from last year. It's working, you know. The thing is that this same shoe doesn't fit all people, and what works for me may not work for others. But I like the streamline effect. So
yeah, that efficiency is key. And I think, you know, the development of, you know, the speed in which Steam, you know, grew. Now, obviously, good time, good market, right? Everything like that. But there, you took advantage of it. I sat down, I talked to people who are like, our goal is to grow from 15 million to 20 million. I'm like, in this market, I go, one account could put you at 50 million. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that mindset. And Louis, you kind of talked on it. I remember when I first started, like my degrees in sports medicine, athletic training, physical therapy. I was working with people, and I was working too also on the side there at our clinic where we were doing some like personal training, people that needed rehab. And it was like very exclusive. There's CEOs, dentists, doctors, all these things, right? And the dentists would come in, and their sons were going to med school to be a dentist, right? The doctors, their sons were going to you know, to be a doctor, law school, whatever. Because it was a norm to them. It's what they knew. It's what they, you know, to us, my dad's a teacher, very successful coach, but my dad's a teacher. I'm a secretary. Like the talk about a doctor or a dentist is like, oh, you got to go to school forever, but they don't know what it is. They see it as unattainable. They see it as something that like only certain people do, right? Only certain people would have to, you know, have that mindset.
Yeah, growth is a mindset. Growth is what you think about every single day when you walk in the door is growth. That's all we talk about. And we did that at Access America. We grew from 50 million to 500 million in like 5 years. And then in the last 4 years for us, we went from, you know, 33 to 760 million. But that's really all we think about is growth. And that helps our people compensation wise as we grow.
Yeah.
that was with Tom Escott, right? Access America?
No. Access America Transport?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was out of Chattanooga.
Have you always been in Chattanooga?
I've always been in Minneapolis, and I started the Minneapolis office of Access America Transport back in 2006. And then once I moved over to Steam, I moved to Chattanooga. So I've been here 9 years. I love it. It's a great town.
Yeah, Minnesota is a good place for Knutsons. There's not very many Knutsons around, but you get up to Minnesota and there's plenty.
They're all over up there.
Hopefully they have a good name up there.
Yeah, they do.
I've never been a bad Knutson. No.
You know, knock the burnt biscuit around a little bit.
That name sounds like a regular up in that area.
Oh yeah,
you get up north there, you know, up there Duluth. Hey, Tony's on.
Sorry, guys, I was on a forklift. We were trying not to.
I love this. This is what this freaking show is about. Steve, you're our first CEO to ever come on, or president.
Yeah.
To ever come on.
Yeah.
I drove a forklift myself a lot back in the day. I spent 21 hours on a forklift one day. I'll never forget that day. Unbelievable. We loaded 60 trucks. I know how to pinwheel them, and I know how to.
I've spent 21 hours in a truck, but maybe not a forklift, and I don't have the logs to show it either.
It's
hauling horses.
It sucked. But.
There you go.
So Tony, just catch up. You know, Steve went through a little bit about, you know, how quickly they grew, you know, what their culture is and how they, you know, his background and whatnot. You've recently, I think I remember talking to you in 2021, maybe it was, you were like, we did $2 billion all of last year, and we've already done $3 billion in Q1. of 2021, whatever it was. Now,
Yeah.
Lippert as a company, their strategy was a little bit more, acquisition, which is still a great strategy, but, acquiring companies that, hey, if this company's going to paint our panels, we're just going to buy them. So we own them. And, but what have you seen? Because that culture has stayed, if not gotten better throughout all of it. Have you seen, is it still just that core group, or have they brought in everybody into that, or how's that? I mean, what's Jason doing over there?
So I think we did 5.5 last year. So it was a pretty good year. Rapid growth is very familiar in this business, but in 08, when the whole economy kind of took off, we were, I wasn't here then obviously, but we were probably 75, 80 or higher in RV. And now through acquisition and growth, we've diversified to now I think it's less than 50% RV. So when these downturns happen, we strategically grew in a way that would complement our core competencies, yet diversify. So if we're good at creating or welding, we're not going to get into medical products, right? So Jason was here, I don't know.
I saw you got a picture with him.
Tuesday.
You look all giddy.
Because I've never got my picture with him. I mean, like we talked a few times, but I've never.
Jason Lippert, if you don't know,
I had to take 2 pictures. The first one I got, he had his eyes closed. I'm like, come on, man.
this is going on LinkedIn.
No, I didn't post it. I put it on like Instagram or something. Anyway, yeah. So Jason does a real good job. We actually, he lives the core values, and the whole executive team helps develop and grow the core values and our 4 pillars, and then our leadership characteristics. And we always have this right here, right? This is, I don't know if you can't see it all, but that's business is a force for good. Our core values are passionate about winning, team play with trust, honesty, integrity, and candor, caring about people, and a positive attitude. And then our leader qualities, you have to be a motivator, you have to be a servant leader, you have to be humble and coachable, you have to be an effective communicator, and you have to be courageous. You put those things together in any leader, and it's a recipe to win. This company has decided to build into people because you can treat people well, and then they will treat your business well.
Oh yeah.
And all of this fringe benefit stuff happens as well. People are happier. People are more engaged at work. When we're in the business of manufacturing, do you want somebody that comes into work and does what they have to do to get by and punch the clock, or do you want somebody who comes to work smiling, having a good time with friends? So
you're trying to build a single unit, all in unison, with a collaborative effort. That's what you're trying to do. You accomplish it more as a team.
So, hey, Tony, would you say it's safe to say that Jason is definitely nailed the hammer on the head when it comes to culture, creating a culture?
Yeah, because Lippert did not used to be that way at all. I mean, I remember in this town, it wasn't but about 10, 12 years ago, Lippert was kind of a joke as far as an employer.
They're the reason that area is what it is now, right, though?
It was like 90% turnover and stuff. Now there's a line to get in, man. I mean, it's a great place to work, and I love my job.
But that's a culture where that's a huge Tony. Because he knows when you know that your company cares, he cares enough to go jump on a forklift, right? And now these people are seeing their boss jumping on a forklift, helping out, right? I mean, those are things that go a long way. And I think that having those core values, I think, on your badge is key. And Steve, I don't know if you guys have talked about this or what you guys have thought about when it comes to this with how rapid you've grown, but you look at, people want to say things about TQL, Landstar, things like that, right? When you get to a certain size, it's inevitable, right? You're going to lose that culture because you expand so much to where you could have one office, right? That's ran by some dude that used to be a good producer, and he brings all the good old boys in, right? And they just taint that name, right? Or whatever it is, right?
Negative. I disagree, concur wholeheartedly.
Yeah,
I got 5.5 billion reasons why.
So how do you, what do you guys see as, as you continue to grow, your way of keeping that from happening? Because I think some of them don't care. I think there's certain ones that got to a certain level. They're like, you know what? It's all about numbers. We got investors we got to answer to. We're more worried about that. let's just make the numbers. Where are you guys at in that stage? Compared to that's one thing I haven't got to.
Yeah, I think we're real fortunate because at $750 million, we're not that multi-billion-dollar company yet. I think when you go to one of our branch offices, the whole goal is that it looks, sounds, and feels just like every other office. So I always say, if your Big Mac tastes one way in Miami, it better taste the same way in Seattle.
Right.
And so when I go and I visit offices, not as often
That's
as
the key.
I want to, but I'm there. I've been to 4 offices in the last month. And I spent a couple of days there, and so we send out every morning update, so they're seeing culturally what our expectations are and who we are as a company. Our maxims are on the wall of every office, and so it's real consistent. And you're right, it comes down to the leadership in those offices. Do we have the right people in place that have the same values? Because it can get away if you have the wrong leader. About that.
But your presence though is key. I know Eric Fort Myers Circle. I know there's people that still do that. Go around to these offices and making sure, just like Jason, go and get a picture with Tony. Those are things that I think are really, really key. I mean, you can build a stadium and have the stadium named after you, in Cincinnati, but that doesn't mean that what's happening in every office or whatever. Because I'll tell you this, and like right here, the comment, TQL's motto is TQL cares. I'll say their name, I don't care, because some of the best reps I know work for TQL. Some of the best reps I know work for Landstar, right? Because it's just gotten to that size in which they lost that management of it, and sometimes, like I said, they may not care. They're doing fine, but some of those people, it probably bugs the hell out of them because they're like, and so that's why I never ever, judge on that, right? On a company's name or whatever comes out or whatever it is, because there's people out there that cling on to their company's good name when they're really not good. It's vice versa. Yeah. But I like that you still get out, you go see the offices. And how many satellite offices? How many offices do you have now?
We have 11 now.
Wow.
And so that, and I think we'll continue to open them later on this year, but we opened 8 last year and it's been great. Frankly, you can't have thousands of people in Chattanooga, Tennessee, because it's a beautiful city, a lot of logistics talent here, but it's the 101st largest city in the country. And I even talked to Ken Oakes at TQL in Cincinnati, which is a large market. He's running out of people. So, and he has 56 offices, but for us, it's like, we frankly just needed other talent pools around the country to draw from to continue our growth. And we just could not do that in Chattanooga alone. So that was the big purpose, but I've been real fortunate. Like I flew out to Charleston and I drove up to Wilmington. So I see a lot of different places when I'm going to see these offices, and I actually really enjoy that.
So the COVID, everything going remote changed that growth strategy. I went from a director of operations to a director of regional development when we did that, right? We were Fort Wayne, Indiana, right? We're 140th largest city, whatever it is. And it was like, there's only so much talent, right? You can only grow so much. And it was like, hey, this person down in Arizona, right? This person in North Carolina, this person in Des Moines, Iowa has, quality book of business. They're talented. We can get them rolling. Maybe
not that one in Des Moines.
That's a great because, you understand then that that expansion out from Chattanooga, Fort Wayne, wherever you're at, is so much easier. And it became, a lot of owners at the time, were so against people not being in the office. Got to be in the office. I got to know what you're doing. And it became like, wow, this is a lot easier. There's less overhead. If you master that, which I'm sure you guys did, it allowed for that rapid growth, which you guys are still going to probably trend on that same path, right?
Yeah, with COVID, we are an in-office brokerage, so we were all back in the office by July 2020. We just never had any remote workers. And the neat thing about our branch offices is that all of our branch managers that we hired last year, all 8, were from inbound LinkedIn mail to me, saying how much they recognized that we were different, our culture was different, our product was a real nice product to sell, and they wanted an opportunity to open an office in that market. So the cities that we're in, we're not because we wanted to be in Des Moines, Iowa. is just because someone in Des Moines,
Right.
who, we interviewed and ended up being a great fit, wanted to start an office in Des Moines, Iowa. And so, we're really fortunate in that regard that people in logistics recognize that we have something different because of what we put on LinkedIn. And we use LinkedIn primarily to just talk about our culture. You'll never catch me on LinkedIn arguing back and forth with anyone or making comments. If anybody makes comment on, I'm not commenting back. We use it to put out our gong videos, our cultural stuff. It's just, it really is about our company, and that's really what we use it for. And so it's been fortunate. We've had all that inbound, and all those managers have come from that.
I have to apologize. So when I went to message you the other day on LinkedIn, I had noticed when I was transitioning roles, they had mentioned you and I had seen you and I'd messaged you and you said, "Oh no, yeah, I'd love to, me and the CEO, we'll sit down, we'll talk, and I had answered, Steve, I had so many inboxes. There were so many people I didn't answer. I thought about the other day, just going through and finally getting to answer all of them and let them know I'm sorry for not responding. I was like, oh my God, I feel like a jackass. I'm asking them to come on my show. I was like, but it was one of those things, but that's, I reached out to you, right? I mean, I reached out to you. It was, at the beginning there, before everything started kind of flowing in. So, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think it's a valuable thing. I think, your mindset on where you're at and what do you guys, let's talk about what you guys see, future wise. I mean, is there anything you guys are adding, going to change, anything special coming up?
Yeah, obviously we're going to continue the branch strategy and opening branches. We just became an IMC for a few of the rail lines, so we're getting intermodal pretty heavily. So that's just another avenue. We hired who we think is kind of one of one on the government side from another company, and he's got some unbelievable relationship with the government. So we think we're gonna have a really big government presence. We do a little with the government already, obviously a lot of people do, but this guy's pretty unbelievable. So he's coming on to help us on the government side. So we feel really good about it. I think that if you have an even year this year in this industry, it's gonna be really good. If you do the same amount of sales you did last year, especially we did a lot of international. We do a lot of, we did 250 million in drayage last year, and we did a ton of international. As everyone knows, when you're charging 15,000 for a container, and now you're charging 1,200 or whatever it is, that makes a big difference. And unless you're going to times your volume by 15, you're not going to make up that sale. So, if we do a little more than we did last year, even, it's going to be a great year for any transportation company.
Right.
So we look forward to that. We feel like it's these down years in the market. I actually like it. People say I'm crazy. They say I'm crazy anyway, but they say I'm crazy when it comes to enjoying a down market, because I think it gives a company an opportunity to really refine what they're doing.
Yes.
And build a launching pad so then you can go from $1 billion to $2 billion in 1 year, because you really have everything ready to go. And we think this year could be our best year ever, and it might be the same sales as last year, but it literally could be our best year ever if we put the right things in place. And so that's how we look at this year.
I can't preach that anymore. I would say prepare for the good times during the bad ones, prepare for the bad ones during the good ones, because
You've been saying that for years.
I know.
I got a question, Steve.
I like the down times too, because it makes, because during the good times, everyone's walking around beating their chest, and talking about this and that. And in my mind, I've been through the down times, and it's like, man, you have no idea. And listen, sometimes it's hard to hold your tongue, but you do it. You're professional, right? So then during the bad times, that's when I shine. You know what I mean? That rainy day, like I said, I had a CEO I used to always talk about rainy day mindset. When it's rainy, every I'm going to take the day off, or I'm not going to work as hard. It's like, that's when I pass people. You know what I mean? That's when I, gain the ground, because everybody else is wanting to, slow down and either bitch or complain or not work as hard.
Yeah, a year like this flushes out a lot of mirror foggers. If you fogged up a mirror the last couple of years and had a pulse, you probably did well. But this is the year. If you don't know what you're doing, or you haven't been through these cycles in the past, it's going to be a tough year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. It's great to hear that, because I remember walking, hearing these people talking. I'm like, you were handed an account that anybody could bid, and God bless you. But I talked to people if they won a division I was overseeing or something, like, hey, work with these people. You still got to train them. I mean, you got to make sure as a leadership that that's part of it, right? And that you don't let that happen. Because as soon as they get used to that lifestyle and that goes down, they don't know how to react or pivot. They're gone.
Well, that's part. And listen, we took a lot of crap for offering $2,000 for people to quit, but when the market changed, it's also a free country. We didn't force anyone to take $2,000.
Exactly.
I've literally done that for 15 years. I used to offer $5,000. I'm a little cheaper now because I'm old. I did it a year ago.
You're old.
I didn't have a bunch of newspapers and Channel 3 in town calling me like I did a couple of weeks ago. But I offered the same thing a year ago, and one person took it. And nobody knows this, but I think 18 people took it out of 900. And it's a free choice. Nobody was forced to take $2,000, but if you were willing to take $2,000 to leave your job, then you probably weren't all that committed to it. And it's good for both parties. To us, it was a good thing for both parties. We give someone $2,000, and obviously they're already thinking that they're not meant for the position. They're not happy here. So let's all be honest with each other. Here's $2,000, and they're going to go do something else, and they're going to be happy, and then we're going to fill the seat with someone else who is committed to that.
And you don't want that. It's hard. You can't polish a turd. And I've been there, and where, how do we, this person, and they could come up with whatever to go against you, but it's like, hey, as a business, you have to be smart, and they don't want to be here anyways. And, or you got another option, buddy I know was running an office. Guy had a morning meeting the other day. President standing there with the HR guy says, hey, the whole office is let go. Why is that? Financial hardship. They were doing great. You could do it that way if you want. And then where's the publicity on that, right? I mean, if somebody's going to take $2,000 to leave the job, I would not want them anyways. And I'm sorry.
Right.
Don't be sensitive. Right. It's not about that. It's about you actually offering something that other companies don't, because they would just fire them, right? I mean, that's just how it works.
Yeah, it wasn't about avoiding a layoff. It wasn't about. It's just like, hey, the market's tough. We understand some of you aren't really salespeople, which, brokers, you have to sell. And maybe you lied to yourself when you took the job, and now you're realizing that, oh, no, I got, freight's not falling from the sky anymore. Now I have to sell. And this isn't for me. Take the $2,000 and move on. We were happy to do it. They were happy. I mean, people weren't complaining to take the $2,000, and it worked out really well.
That's really a brilliant way, Steve, to get rid of low-hanging fruit, in all honesty, and not that that's your goal, but using that strategy.
As a business, it has
but
to be
but correct. That's what I'm getting at. Like, as you being the CEO of your business, it's a very smart move for the culture, for overall, right? For the whole business in general. That was just really smart. When I saw that, I had never seen that before that post. And the moment I saw it, I was like, pardon my English, but I was like, this motherfucker.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. He's brilliant. It's brilliant.
It's not like we made it up, right? I know we've heard of Zappos.
Well, regardless, it's just that's a smart strategic move.
And when you go to, satellite offices built around individuals, right, or pods or whatever it is, right, and then that person fails, say, right, that's where a lot of these, mass layoffs are coming in, right? Oh, they shut down an office or a mass layoff or whatever it was. It was an absolute thing that you laid out with KPIs and numbers on what you needed to hit, and might have been just their choice. I'm just saying it for an example. And then all of a sudden it gets out and it's, mass layoffs or whatever, the person may be butthurt. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's like you're out there, you're putting it out there, and people are talking about you, like Lewis said. It's when they stop talking about when you got to worry. You look at this. So here's a comment. I don't really know who this guy is. Okay, I just heard the majority of the complaints are due to payments on time. That's great if that's what they're doing now. I'm sorry, but you go on Google and look up any brokerage, and every single one of them has complaints about payments on time and all that stuff, right? You can always say, I've heard, right? Yeah. Unless you're going to come out and without actually some facts, all it is you're just stirring up the pot because somebody's doing it. That's how it works and everything, man. I don't care where you're at.
Hey, PJ.
It's great to talk about them because you're going to get
and something, what it really comes down to, all right, let's talk about the college kids that are just wet behind the ears that said, you know what, brokerage is a pretty good thing. I want to try it out. I think it comes down, well, I'm not going to say think. It all comes down to training and what kind of training programs that you have at your brokerage that helps to develop these kids that really don't know how to sell, unless you're just going after the trained employees that can bring in $1 million or $2 million under their belt every single year. You know, that's your model. But what do you do with these new kids that want to become brokers?
Yeah, and those incentives, those little incentives, banging a gong. I'm sorry, but people act like that's that, like, you know, that for some people it's like that's my goal. My goal is
It's a big deal.
I used to have, you know, I wanted to do spiffs, you know, when I was developing on our account management team and our carousel team, and it was like, what can I do? I would go buy, you know, $10 lottery tickets, right? And so, you know, each week it was based on growth, not necessarily because somebody could have a huge account and they're always going to have better numbers, but it was always on growth at certain levels. And that $10 ticket, right, big old ticket that had you could win $50,000, right? To them that was $50,000. That was, now it helped me out because like the first 3 ended up winning like 25, whatever. But like that incentive of like, I want to go up front and accept, you know, have TJ hand me a lottery ticket, or I want to go bang a gong. I want to do things like that. So Jeff, the training and the excitement, you know, and the you know, that's what culture is. You can have ping pong tables, you can have all those things, and they're great. But at the end of the day, if you've got something that people want to strive for and they really want to push towards, and you make it exciting, like I said, most people don't know you're behind the camera and think you're an 18-year-old kid running around that's a blogger. You're so excited about it. But that's what it's about. It's like, hey, if Steve Cox, the president's this excited, then I should be. You know, he's not sitting in his office with his feet kicked up drinking coffee.
Yeah, we don't have there are no offices here. This is a conference room.
Please turn right.
And there are no. We don't have our CEO doesn't have an office. I don't have an office. I sit on the floor. And
Oh, that's great.
We'll never have offices here. We built a brand new building. There isn't a single office in it.
That's great. That's great. You guys have like huddle rooms?
Yeah, that's all. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Now. That's it.
Yep.
That's all we have.
That's what I don't know if you guys know. You up to KBX up there in Green Bay? They have that though. Of course, they now own or Coke owns Guardian Glass, so they got all the nice glass, like, you know, huddle rooms and everything like that. But it was a great
Turn
thing.
left
We always
after a quarter of a
I
mile.
can't do it 'cause I can't sit still. You know, I wanted to be out in the action. But I think it makes a huge difference because they hear your conversations, they hear
Please
your,
enter next left.
you know, they see you, right? I mean, like it's a big thing for them to see the, you know, the president of the company walking through and doing those things.
Yeah, you hear their conversations, they hear yours, they see that you're part of the business. It's just, I love it. I could never sit in an office, couldn't do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I mean, I think it's great. You know, you coming on doing this. You know, at the end of the day, man, it's like you don't even need to respond. You know,
Turn right after a quarter of a mile.
That's why I didn't even make it a big deal. Because it was like when you know you're like everybody that's any good or any smart, they know what's going on. Like they get it, right? And that's all that matters. There's always going to be that noise. There's always people out there who care more about talking about their margin or
Please
you know,
enter
what
next right.
concepts are. You know, it doesn't matter, right? We're in this for one thing and one thing only, and that's to talk about freight and celebrate successes, right? Because the stuff you just gave, right? The insights you just gave, you know, Tony, Jeff, you know, Lewis, or there's somebody out there that's starting up a company or somebody out there that's got a small company, right? That's feeding off that, that's going to learn that.
And we haven't done anything perfect, and we've made a ton of mistakes. Like, I mean, at first we're failing miserably. Like when you go from 50 to 925 people in 48 months, you're going to make some mistakes. You just are. And so, but you know, we scaled. We feel fortunate to be here, and we're going to be here for a long time. We offer a very unique product, and you know, we have international. Most people, you know how the business is. You either do domestic or international. We're doing international drayage, domestic. Like we just have a really
drayage, Tony.
Yeah, we have a fun, unique product to offer, and so, you know, our people believe in it, and they hustle, and they're compensated as a lot of brokerages are to make sure the customer's satisfied. But you know, we just feel very fortunate to be in the position we're in, and fortunate to have such great people that work here, and I just love coming into work every day.
You got a lot of people root for you. I'll tell you
Steve,
that.
I'm glad you came on, but I got to correct TJ because Lewis is actually our first CEO that was on here. You're way off.
Oh,
Hey, I'm not a CEO.
Yeah, but
I'm not a CEO either. So
yeah. He's
Yeah,
the
but
president.
I'm definitely at no scale of what Steam is doing, man, but it's impressive. It's got, again, I'm one of your biggest cheerleaders, man. I think it's just awesome, and it's evident that when you create a culture in your industry, you grow. Like, it's not rocket science. You know, when you can feed a culture and create it, you will grow. You will literally grow, and you're proof of it. You're living proof of it every day. Every time you post on Steam what's going on, it's pretty obvious to see that it's because of a culture that you guys are creating to just grow. So it's cool, man.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Hey, this is how much we love titles here. I was the CEO of Steam for a couple 3 years, and then when Jason came on, I was like, dude, you need to be the CEO. I'm not the face of a company. Like, that's why I don't take podcasts and stuff. I don't do stuff like this normally, because it's just, you know, I just try to motivate salespeople. That's what I feel like my job is. So
Sure.
I was like, you be the CEO. I don't want to be. I'm not that kind of. I'm not the CEO of a company.
Shoot,
So
that's everyone's job, is to motivate the people that they're working with. My job is to motivate my team and get them to load trucks and deliver and drive safely and do the right thing when they're out on the road and they see someone broke down. I mean, my job is to make sure everybody can be in a coaching environment where I help them take their next step. If they want to learn and grow, my job's to help them. I'm gonna be a footstool.
it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's, and you know, I got to make an announcement. I want everybody that's listening, I want you guys all to hear this. I
Oh,
feel terrible. I'll put a post out as well. It all
Okay.
started as a joke.
Turn
and
right
I don't
at
even know
exit
how,
9.
but I was mentioning to, you know, Tony said something about drayage. Tony does not have any drayage. He does not deal with drayage at all.
Yep.
Okay. He was picking on me one day and he was bitching about these people that he said, oh, I don't know why everybody keeps emailing me about drayage. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, you're picking on me. So I'm going to start putting out things, you know, about how Tony needs drayage. He needs brokers. Well, it got out of hand. He's getting emails all the time. And then what makes me feel bad is now I'm getting messages from people that I respect in the industry. Like, I respect them. Like, and they're going, hey, if you're Tony ever needed, I'm like, oh my God, this is getting out of hand. Like, I thought I made it so that it seemed as though it was a joke, but apparently my humor may have been too dry. He does not have any drayage. He does not
It
need
looked
any.
real to me.
It was fun while
Do
it
you have
lasted.
any idea how many people have heard me cuss your name in a DM?
Oh,
We make American windows out of American products and supplies that deliver in America.
it's hard to do this because it was such a great run, but it's getting to the point now where I'm getting emails right and left, and I'm getting messages now from people that I really respect. It's like, he doesn't have any drayage. I'll put a post out too, Tony. Let's end it here. But you know,
It's
I think
about time. It's been like 2 months, man.
it's been great.
Oh, you probably had 1,000 calls.
Oh
least.
my God.
At least.
I mean, I'm getting emails, just random, just solicit emails now. You know, you and your friend Tony. You know, if you ever need anything out of here, and
It was
then
actually a joke
someone I
because
respect,
all of
I'm
the
like, God,
poor-
now I think I'm duping somebody that's pretty smart.
It was actually a joke because all of the poorly formatted sales pitch emails that come out and say they specialize in drayage, and I'm like, how do people not understand that we're building a product in Indiana
No
that's
research, yeah.
out of parts from Ohio that are going to Pennsylvania? And I mean, it's just funny because there's zero research, and you know, they're the pitch that says I got LTL, parcel, reefer, drayage, and tankers, my specialties, and I'm like, oh, so I don't need any of those.
Now you are lying a little bit because you told me that like once
Sounds
a
like
year
a Dre move to me.
you used to send a container to Australia like once a year.
Not at this plant.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was at the other one, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that was several times. We did a lot of that.
So now you're out. He's completely out. No containers, guys. We don't
Third
need
collect.
chassis, nothing.
It was
Leave
third
alone.
collect account. We're good.
Yeah.
Customer sent that in.
That's right. Customer routed.
Turn
Yeah,
left
customer.
after a quarter
Yeah,
of a
man.
mile.
I got my own trucks. He's got his own
Yep.
fleet, right? Leave me
That's
alone.
how you make them stop. Customer routed.
hmm
We do. In fact, next week we're going to have a DOT officer on site with the truck and one of mine, and we're going to go through a pre-trip inspection with our local drivers here, and we're going to train some more until they're great.
I'm coming up. I'm coming up there. I'm just check his credentials.
Come on up, man. I
Yeah.
reached out
I'm
to
gonna-
him. I got him.
Me and Lewis are gonna pull up in the Cummins, and we're gonna
Literally.
pull up there in the Great White Buffalo or whatever he calls it, and we're gonna have our vests on. and
Pretty
everything.
white buffalo.
Yeah. Hard hats and vests.
So, hey guys, listen, I appreciate Steve. I appreciate you coming on. You know, this is what it's all about. We're laid back. And you know, somebody mentioned it at the beginning of the show. You know, surrounding yourself with people that you're constantly learning from, having a pulse on the market. You know, this is what it's all about. This is why we do it. Again, I say it every show because I learn from everybody that comes on here. I learn something, and believe it or not, I still learn some stuff from Tony here and there. But you know, Jeff Lewis, those guys. You know, always learning, always being, you know, excited about the industry, and I think it's contagious. So keep it up. I really like following you guys.
Hey, thanks, Steve, for coming on. Sorry I was late. Didn't mean to disrespect, but freight's got to move, man.
That's right. No, I really appreciate you being on.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
It's a great show.
Yep. And
I'll
I
send you a
will,
friend request.
I will for sure hit you up when I'm in Chattanooga.
Yeah, stop in, man. I'll show you around the Steam Center.
For
Ooh.
sure, man.
Hey, you got to get a mug. You have one of those Axle mugs. You got to get a Steam mug.
Yeah, we'll get you some swag. You stop by, you'll get swag.
Just
Yeah.
send me an
Hey,
invite.
I'm in.
in a week when we're down at the trucking show in Louisville at Matt's, me and Lewis are going. Tony Bale.
daughter's
And
birthday.
gosh, we're going to have Adam Wingfield on. We're going to be live from the truck show down there in Louisville. If you're around, grab some KFC, swing by. I'll have some Handle It shirts and some Hold My Beer shirts handing out. So look forward to that too.
I'll be calling in live from West Lafayette. Go Boilers.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll be calling in live too.
Birthday, and Jeff and his wife. Were you guys going on vacation, Jeff?
Yeah, going to Marco. Yep.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I especially hate Boilermakers. The last time I was there, Jeff, was the time, or Tony, was the time that they embarrassed my Buckeyes, and I had to be there in person to see it. It was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Worst
just
day of my life.
typical.
Uh,
That's a normal
Worst-
day. We like to embarrass
worst-
the nuts.
Worst
we're
game.
gonna end on that. All right, gang. Hey, we'll see you next week. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, team. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. I sent you a
Thanks,
friend
guys.
request.
Appreciate it.
Take care now.
Thanks.